Everybody should know their stock carry yardages with all of the clubs in their bag. And it's super simple. That way, when you're on course, all you gotta do is figure out what yardage you are away from the hole and just pull that club out to hit it, right? Hey everybody, welcome back to Golf Test Dummy, the channel where I use my game to help your game. I'm out here warming up just a little bit, and I've got a thought for you in this video. We make terrible caddies for ourselves. We can't club ourselves worth a damn, and there's a lot of reasons why. Let's get into them. I actually made a list because I wanted to make sure that I did not forget some of the things, and in no way is this an exhaustive list. There's plenty more I'm sure that professional golfers think about, but these are the things that I think about when I'm trying to club myself, and it's things that I've learned over the years because I used to make a ton of mistakes. I used to just pick clubs based on my stock yardages. Hey, it's 150 yards to the flag. I shot it with the laser. I know I carry my 8-iron 150 yards, so I'm just going to hit the 8-iron here. And wrong answer. There are so many other things that you have to consider when selecting your club. One of them is the lie. It's probably the number one thing that is going to dictate what kind of shots you have available to you that you can play. For instance, if you're in a divot, you probably can't play the same number of shots or the same type of shots as you could if you were sitting on a perfect fairway lie, okay? You have to take all these things into consideration. They are huge factors. The other thing, it's not just what you're sitting on, it's how the golf ball and the land that it's sitting on are oriented. Is it uphill? Is it downhill? Is it side hill? All those things affect it. For instance, if you hit an 8-iron stock 150 yards carry, well, if you're hitting uphill and you have to match your shoulders and your swing to that uphill slope, well, you just turn that 8-iron into probably more like a pitching wedge, which means you need a little bit more club. Or conversely, if you're hitting downhill, that same 8-iron that you're counting on to go 150 yards, well, you just turned it into about a 6-iron because the swing plane that you have to take de-lofts the club face a few degrees and makes it into a 6-iron. Now you're going to blow the ball past the green. So the lie is really the number one thing that dictates what kind of club you're going to select and also what kind of shot you're going to hit. The next thing on my list is elevation. Is there a big difference? For instance, on this par 3, I've got 121 yards. It is 5 feet 2 inches higher at the green where the flag is than where my ball sits right here. That is not going to affect my shot very much. Also, I'm on the tee box, so I've got a perfect lie, perfectly level. That is all good. That makes my selection, once again, that much easier. Now, where am I going to land it on the green? Is it sitting on a side slope? Is my landing zone sitting uphill, downhill in relation to me, side hill? How hard is the green? How is the ball going to bounce a little bit? Is it going to hit and stop? Is it going to stick in the wet ground, or is it really dry and it's going to bounce and it's going to roll forward for 20 yards? All of those things you have to consider, and you should know your stock carry yardages with all of your club, because that is the basis. That is the baseline for how you're going to determine what club to hit. Now, I've got a pitching wedge in my hand with my blades. These do not go quite as far as my cavity back Srixon irons. So I know that with 121 yards, that's about my carry distance with this pitching wedge. I don't think I'm going to get a lot of roll out of this. I think this green is relatively flat. So if I put a pretty stock swing on this pitching wedge and just catch it fairly solid like I normally do, I think it should be around the hole. Let's see. Is that going to carry enough? Nope. It did not carry enough. Now, why? Why did it not carry enough? Why did my pitching wedge just go 110 when I needed 120? Did I do something wrong? Was it me, or was it the club selection that was incorrect? In this case, since I'm on a simulator and everything is pretty much stock for this shot, I'm going to say that I did something incorrect. Maybe I didn't give it my usual effort in the swing. Maybe I didn't swing it as fast as I normally did. Maybe the contact was not so great. But in other circumstances, you may not have done anything wrong physically. You may have done something wrong before you even swung the club mentally. Along with all of these other things out there that can really mess with your yardages, there's also the weather, the environment. Is it windy? Is it raining? Is it cold? Is it hot? Is it sunny? All of those things will come into play, of course. And everybody knows that if you're out in the cold, your golf ball tends to not travel quite as far. But think about this as well. Here's something you might not have considered. When you're in the cold, you're probably going to put on extra layers. You're going to bundle up a little bit. You might not have the same range of motion in your swing. Maybe that knocks everything down 5 to 8% of your normal yardages on top of the amount of distance you're going to lose from having a cold golf ball and cold clubs. All of those things affect it, absolutely. So you have to factor in all the different kinds of weather and the environment. Is it dewy on the ground? Is there going to be water between your club face and the golf ball? All that needs to be considered. And the last thing you have to consider is your ego. And I don't necessarily mean that you think you hit your clubs further than you actually do, even though that is definitely something that a lot of people need a reality check on. They think they hit their 7-iron a carry distance of 170, but in fact it's more like 153. They just have a misconception of what reality is, and that's their ego at work, or it could just be ignorance. Maybe they've never tracked it. But the other side of that ego is, what are all of your friends going to hit on this par 3? Here's a 111-yard par 3. You've probably got some friends that are going to hit sand wedges or lob wedges into this. You might also have some friends that would hit maybe 9-iron or 8-iron into this green, and they usually get laughed at. Everybody's picking on them. But look, I'm going to hit an 8-iron right here on this green. You can do different things with different clubs. You don't always have to swing full out. You don't always have to hit it the same height or hit the same shots. You don't always have to count on perfect contact either when you take the ego out of it. So often, we are counting on those perfect contact strikes to gauge what club we're going to hit. We're going to gauge it based on a perfect strike. Now, I don't think I'm going to get a perfect strike on most of my shots. And this being 111 yards, my 8-iron is probably about 30, maybe 35 yards too long for this hole normally. But I'm going to play a little bit higher shot. I'm going to make a little bit less length of swing. And I'm going to try and take my effort level down to be pretty chill. Now let's see if I can make an 8-iron go 111 yards. Looks pretty good. Sit. Oh, 111.3. Now, if I'd hit that 8-iron off the tee box, people might have laughed at me. But I got a birdie putt right there, my man. From time to time, I'll play in best ball tournaments, or if I'm a onesome going out to just try and get a tee time, and it's a little busy out, they might lump me in with some strangers, and I have to play with them. And I play with really good golfers, I play with average golfers, I play with not so great golfers. And for the most part, the not so great golfers, they really have trouble with trying to select what club to hit, especially when it comes to hitting greens and trying to give themselves a putt. To make a birdie or to save par. And the reason is because they might not even know their stock yardages. It's so important to know your stock yardage. Absolutely. It gives you that baseline to work the math out from. And then the other thing is that they just see the number and they pull the stick that they think correlates to that number. And that's just really so oversimplified that more often than not, you're probably going to be wrong. You need to think about all these other factors. Think about this. Think about it this way. When it's tax time and you're filing your taxes, you got your W-2, it's got the income you made for the year on it. But then once you start adding in your expenses or your write-offs or your home or your car or student loans or alimony or whatever else you've got to put in, it adjusts that income to be correct. It's not going to be the same number as what you actually made. They're going to adjust it. It's going to be an adjusted income, and that's what they base their decision on how much you should pay in taxes off of that. It's the same with the club. If you see 150 yards and you know that your stock 7-iron is 150, you've got other factors to consider that may make that number change and give you a completely different club. Maybe you need to hit a 5-iron here, or maybe you need to hit a pitching wedge here. It can really change everything. So be sure to know your stock yardages. Absolutely. You need to know those carry yardages. And then you also need to factor in all of these other things to make the proper decision to hit more greens. Thanks so much for watching. I hope this helps. I'll see you in the next video.